Back inside the square with Kevin McGary of Every Black Life Matters. And Kevin, interesting background, interesting story. Now let's fast forward to the future and Every Black Life Matters. Everyblm.com is the website. Take us through how that became what it is today and where you guys are headed.
Yeah, so we saw the hatred, the vitriol, the carnage, the riots, the all that was happening based on George Floyd and BLM and their communist Chinese Communist Party funding them to do all of the destruction of our cities. When we saw that, we thought, well, this is really strange because we saw BLM out with their brethren in the Antifa, which is the real white supremacist organization. I mean, everybody should know that. I mean, 98% of Antifa or Antifa, whatever you want to call them, live in suburbs. There's an
Yeah.
actual, we live in suburbs. Now, here's the problem. They were going to communities of color, black and brown businesses, and burning down those businesses to express outrage. Now, if you're not a white supremacist, what you would have done is you would have said, look, we're going to burn down our neighborhoods here in the suburbia where we live, as opposed to going to the city where the black and brown communities live and burn down their businesses. So that's why I say, look, and so when we took a look at this strange dynamic between BLM and Antifa and the burning down black and brown businesses and then churches saying, look, go out and participate in this, we thought, this is so great. This is a bridge too far. So we needed, clearly there were people that were upset about the 9 minutes and 43 seconds of George Floyd and seeing his life snuffed out. I get that. And so we wanted to have, we felt that people needed a righteous and faithful way to express their sorrow, grief, and those types of things, those other emotions that were more positive. And so we said, look, what we're going to do is we're going to come up with an alternative to BLM. We'll call it Every Black Life Matters. And some people would say, well, I mean, isn't that still dividing us and all? And no. What we're saying is all lives matter. And the way that we say all lives matter is when we say every Black life matters, we're illuminating the life aspect. Now, a lot of people aren't familiar, but, Margaret Sanger, when she started the Planned Parenthood family planning clinics back in the day, who was the founder of Planned Parenthood, she says, look, we don't want the word to get out, but we want to utterly destroy the Negro population.
Oh, yeah. It was a genocide on the black population.
Oh,
Absolutely.
genocide on the black. And to this day, 90% of Planned Parenthood is within walking distance of all black and brown communities. So the scourge, the black genocide, is still happening. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're saying is every Black life matters too, TOO. So stop targeting us for extermination, like, Planned Parenthood's founders did, and allow Blacks are being born at this rate. All other ethnicities in America are being born at this rate. That's a huge gap. All we're saying is, look, at the very least, if all lives matter, which they do, can you stop targeting Black communities and let us at least be born at the same rate that everybody else is? And
Yeah,
so
but they're going to go through the narrative. It's healthcare, Kevin. It's healthcare in those communities. Those women need that healthcare. I mean, that's
exactly
ridiculous.
Right. So that's why we say every Black life matters. We're making a statement there about life. Okay, so number one, we're pro-life from womb to tomb. Number two, we're pro-school choice, pro-fatherhood, pro-free markets and capitalism. So all the things that would make a definitive difference in the Black community are the things that we stand for. So we've been, around since going on 3 years now, 2.5 years, I guess, or maybe 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. And we have been encouraging parent communities, school boards. We've been standing on the tip of the spear in culture. So we've been fighting back against wokeism and Marxism, one and the same.
But have you been called a white supremacist yet, Kevin? That's the question.
Well, I think everybody who's just identifies as conservative or GOP would be called a white supremacist. And yeah, my brother-in-law, he says, "Oh, kid, you're a white supremacist." Okay.
It's just a clown show, isn't it?
It's just ridiculous. At some point, all of their ad hominems don't mean anything. I mean, they're just ridiculous. So we don't even have to get there's nothing about it. So so we've been going around the country and around the world actually, and helping people. We've been exposing wokeism. We've been helping people to understand what wokeism is and what it's not. I wrote a book on that, as a matter of fact, called Woked Up, WOKED Up, And the subheading is finally putting an axe to the taproot of white supremacy and racism in America. And in that book, I fully expose that actually those who identify as being woke are the ones who are literally the white supremacists and racists. Not in an homonym. That's just the way it is. I mean,
Yes.
if you're woke, you're steeped in white supremacy and racism. That's what you are. That's where it comes from. So while they continue to deflect and project on others who happen to have a dissenting point of view, the reality is that they're all, actually the white supremacists and racists. That
Yeah, I
book.
mean, when you hear in the news, the black community, they can't get voter IDs. They don't know how to use the internet. They don't know how to get in their car to drive where they need to go. It's insane to me that people put up with it.
Yeah, yeah. We have a lot of that. We have a lot of people putting up with that. A lot of it is born out of, and I go throughout history and woke up. I confirm where all this stuff comes from, right? Where we start to see each other as different, and it really stems from a history of Charles Darwin. Darwin was the first, renowned scientific mind, if you will, who asserted that there was very distinct differences between whites and everybody else. He says, "Look, we whites have plateaued. All other ethnicities, they're still trying to climb the evolutionary ladder." Of course, Darwin, of course, is the pioneer of the evolution
Right.
theory. And so he says, as a matter of fact, you look at blacks, you see that they're still subhuman and they're tantamount to apes, gorillas, and savages. This is in his second book, The Descent of Man. So Charles Darwin is the one that really, for the first time in human history, yes, we've had tribalism, we've had ethnic strife between people, but for the first time in human history, we literally have a scientific mind who was renowned, worldwide, recognized, who came out and said, no, there's actual distinct differences between ethnicities. Never was believed, and never was a scientific notion of that until Darwin. So when that happened, blacks were then conscripted to a whole nother thought pattern, right? Now, some people would say, well, that can't be right because Darwin's writings didn't come out until mid to late 1800s. That's true. And we had slavery starting, well before then. That's true. But that was slavery was based on economic opportunism. That was not about, hey, these people are subhuman. We can treat them any kind of way. No, it was, I have
Right.
50 acres. I have two kids, one boy and one girl, and I got 50 acres. So I'm going to, till the land and grow anything. Somebody comes by with a group of people that they've gotten off of boats with no documents and says, look, you can have $5 each. That's economic opportunism. You just say,
Yeah.
oh,
And unfortunately, it's still happening across the globe.
it is still happening to this very day in Libya. We have slave trades. In Pakistan, we have slave trades. It's terrible what's happening. Slavery did not end. I mean, a lot of people would think that it would have because it's so barbaric and archaic. But it did not end. To this very day, we have more slavery right now than ever before in human history, if you can believe that. When you include sex slavery and
Yeah.
human trafficking and then slavery and slave markets in parts of Africa, et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah, the notion that slavery began in the colonies here in the States and ended with the Union, beating the Confederacy is just the worst lie ever told.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Slavery has been going on since the beginning of man, and it still continues, as you said, to this day in a greater and more evil way than it ever has before.
Yeah. The only thing the biggest distinguishing factor was back in that day, blacks were really distinguished as being subhuman, and that was a whole nother category of
Yeah,
human.
disgusting.
And it's disgusting. And so because of that, we had to, ultimately begin to fight our way out, with affirmative action programs and other things just to be seen as equal so we can finally get the same jobs and participate in the workplace and participate in society at the same level everybody else is. But we had and still to this day, we're still trying to dig out from this Darwinian thought. I mean, when you see that they say, well, blacks are innately incapable of keeping up with math scores and English scores, so we need to bend the curve downward. Forget educational excellence. Let's bend the curve downward because blacks especially, are not able to keep up, then that's Darwinian thought. That's racism, and that is, it's disgusting.
And now let's segregate the classrooms too. Let's just put all the whites in one classroom, all the blacks in one. It's insanity what's happening.
It is. And so, and they do it based upon diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's my latest book, actually, DEI in 3D. So, you understand what, 3D is, giving you an in-depth view. And that's the kind of bit that I take on that one. Really exposing what DEI is and what it's not. I don't do it from an ideological perspective in that book. It's just, hey, let's just go through this together. Let's figure out what diversity, equity, inclusion is and what it's not. Let's figure out how it impacts, everyone.
Perfect. And if I could pause you right there, Kevin, because we're running up against a hard break, I want to talk to you about what you've got going on in school systems today, and the speeches you've been giving, and where you've been giving them, and the feedback you've been given as you're on the road with Every Black Life Matters and the DEI that's corrupting our kids and our school systems and our families. So we're inside the square with the founder, president of Every Black Life Matters. It's Kevin McGary. I'm Chuck Barham, and we will be right back.
Voices are being silenced. Truth is being twisted. History is being rewritten. Now more than ever, it is time for freedom-loving Americans to unite. This is why we are building Freedom Square. Freedom Square, your patriotic portal to news, podcasts, resources, and a business network designed to connect like-minded consumers and business owners. May God shed His grace on thee. freedomsquare.com. Freedom lives here.